You know, all the time, I've been so nice with you, you little bastard. And you behave so terrible. Why you behave like that? Out, move. You bastard, you go out now. Out of my place.
For 42 years, I've been a supporter of Fulham Football Club. Since Mohamed Al-Fayed became chairman in 1997, he's done great things for the club, and so have I. I even wrote this song. I wanted to make a film about him, but it's notoriously difficult to get cooperation from him, and especially his army of lawyers and minders. But I think because I supported Fulham, he agreed to take part. A Channel 4 contract was set up, but then, with the ink still wet,
do you fancy a sing-song?
I rather unwisely arranged a live performance of the song.
Together with the chairman, back home.
Booking men dressed as prancing homosexuals, and one with an Arab headdress on, was a bad start. It didn't go down well with the crowd or with Mr. Al-Fayed.
Let's sing together. Will you please welcome the great man...
And then, the sprinklers came on. The gay molestation started, and despite putting a brave face on things in public, by the time he'd left the pitch, he was incandescent with rage.
Well, I think it was the water more than anything else.
The sprinklers.
And how do you think it went down?
Like a knackered lift.
I'm coming out at the right time. I see some vaccines down here.
One of the lads who was doing it got a text later on that night after Match of the Day being on. It just said, "Are you fucking sure?"
And so, just as this programme was about to take to the air, it crashed. So we all sat for 5 weeks waiting for a phone call that never came, spending Channel 4's money while telling them that everything was going very well and the Rushes would soon be on their way. But this did give me plenty of time to do some research and to discover that there are two very different versions of the life of Mohamed Al-Fayed, one more flattering than the other. He was born in Alexandria in British-ruled Egypt in 1933, or he was born in Alexandria in British-ruled Egypt, but in 1929. He came from a wealthy family, its fortune made by his grandfather, a successful shipping merchant. Or he came from a poor family and grew up in the modest Gomrock district of Alexandria. He went to a fabulous private school dubbed the Eton of the East, or he was the son of a state school inspector and there is no record of his schooling. He and his brothers had started their business lives as high-flying executives, or he was a door-to-door sewing machine salesman when he was 21. He earned his billions by shipping pilgrims to Mecca and acting as a charming middleman brokering deals for British companies in the Middle East. Or he acquired millions under false names through dodgy deals in Haiti and working for arms dealers. But so far, none of the evidence for the prosecution suggests he's committed a hanging offence, just embellishments of the truth. I'm not a journalist, I'm an actor, and I've barely ever met an actor who didn't exaggerate about his or her age. And I take it as a given that any self-made billionaire must have a few dodgy moments in his curriculum vitae. But pretending that your mother and father were wealthier than they really were isn't a mortal sin, and after all, it doesn't really matter where you came from, it's where you end up. And he's ended up in a very nice place indeed. Through the money earned from his deal brokering, he managed to make substantial purchases around the world, including in 1979 the famed Ritz Hotel in Paris. However, it was now clear that he was set on becoming British. Within a few short years of his arrival in England, he bought himself a home counties mansion, a private jet, a Rolls-Royce Phantom 4, 40 Park Lane flats, and like all proper Englishmen, his own Scottish castle. But he had his eyes set on a bigger prize altogether. In 1985, he bought the House of Fraser chain for £650 million in a bid launched with shares he had bought from his former business associate, Tiny Rowland. With House of Fraser came its flagship store, what was to become the jewel in the Al-Fayed crown, Harrods.
Telegraphic address, Harrods, Everything, London. The most interesting and beautiful store in the whole of Britain and one of the most famous in the world. A busy store in a busy city.
But eventually, to our astonishment and relief, a phone call did come, inviting us to his most famous hotel, the Ritz in Paris. But unlike some other guests, we paid for our stay with Channel 4's money, of course. Christ, look at me. This is how the Hamiltons started. It's a disgrace.
Right, let's go. Find Mohammed.
The PR girl allowed me to see whatever I wanted, including the suite which the Duke and Duchess of Windsor used after the abdication scandal.
Here we see, on the left there, Wallace, and panning around, Gromit.
But why have I been invited to the hotel suite of a man who reputedly had a 1-inch penis? Because Al-Fayed sides with the royals who don't play ball, who rebel against the system. He even took management of their Parisian home, the Villa Windsor, which he lovingly restored at great personal expense. It's where he lives when he's in Paris.
Still no sign of Mohammed then?
But he wasn't there today. So to pass the time, we visited the Alma Tunnel, scene of Diana and Dodi's fatal crash.
Where?
Yeah.
This is it?
Yeah.
Is this the tunnel?
Yeah, you didn't know?
No.
Okay.
Rest in peace, Diana and Dodi. We will never forget. The truth will out one day. Well, there you go. That's from Lorraine in Wigan.
Kamala Parker Bowles looks like a horse. Very good.
Are you here because of the memorial?
Just because of Diana.
And what about Dodi?
I don't know any much.
I mean, what is this? It looks like a monument in memory of the lost cornetto. It was fascinating, but I still seem to be no nearer getting an interview. Oh, this is me looking worried. I've just told Channel 4 that I'm making a fantastic film about not getting to meet Mohamed Al-Fayed. And they've replied that if we wanted that, we would have hired Nick fucking Broomfield.
Oh dear.
Very, very rough-tongued at Channel 4. But then finally came the call I'd been hoping for. If I came back to England, I could have an interview with the man himself. I hope that Mohammed won't mind that nobody asked me to pay the bill. So back I went, looking forward to rebuilding my relationship. I was sure things would go swimmingly.
I've been nice with you, you little bastard.
There's me, finally invited back to Fulham after weeks of silence.
How you doing? I like your hat. How you doing, boys, this morning?
Mohammed's PR men seemed suspicious of what the programme might be trying to do, and so did some of the supporters.
Al-Fayed has done wonders for Fulham.
He's a great man. You think so?
Yeah.
What do you mean? You're not knocking it, are you?
No, I'm not at all.
Run!
How are we going to do today?
Win.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
But we lost, and the Chelsea fans were none too kind. I was nervous. The match had gone badly. We'd last met under embarrassing circumstances, and Channel 4 wanted a hard interview about why Mohammed seems to enjoy the company of British lawyers so much. Would Al-Fayed fire me?
Well, I didn't think I'd ever be allowed back in here because remember when the last time we went on the pitch together?
And you get me all those nice, good-looking boys dancing with me. Huh?
Let me just ask you something here, okay? Lawyers make a lot of money. Do you think sometimes that you get advice from lawyers that is maybe not the right advice?
No, it's my decision.
Always?
Always my decision, because I want to challenge, I want to show the public, I want to show the ordinary people of this country that I've been badly treated all the time, non-stop. And when people go against me for no reason, I don't let them get away. I always fight to get the truth, and all the time believe to prove that I'm always right. Basically, all this what was happening to me is after the tragedy, you know, after the murder of my son and Princess Diana. And I challenge the bastards who done this to me, who is the intelligence service, MI6, and all the time I say this is definitely by the order of the royal family. And who is the head of the royal family is Prince Philip. Prince Philip is a gangster, is a bloody Nazi German bastard, come from nowhere, right? Born like a son of a bitch, right? 6 years old, he been thrown out from Greece, you know. He have no father, have no mother. If you want a child, 6 years old, being taken away from his parents who are completely crazy, right? By his auntie to bring him up, and those auntie married Hitler general, right? And the guy grew up with Hitler general. You want a fucking guy like that, fine? ruling this country behind the scene. He's Hitler ruling Britain behind the scene.
You think so?
100%, yeah, well.
Okay,
he's the power.
Okay,
yeah.
we'll talk about that
And
later.
he's the guy. How can he accept my son?
Okay, cool.
Okay.
When we go to Scotland, we'll talk about this.
Yeah,
It's a different
that's
thing.
good. And who's the bloody politicians? Who you go like donkeys and elected idiots, right? You think Prescott. I would not employ him, I say, as a doorman walking my house. Or Tony Blair. Who's Tony Blair? From where did that come?
I think you called him a cocksucker, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. It was Mandelson. Yeah, he was cocksucker. I'm sure. How can a
I've
bloody
noticed, Mohammed,
Mandelson, you know?
I've noticed there's
and
a
now
thread
he
of-
is representing you in Europe with his good-looking boyfriend. Just be sure what I'm saying, it goes on the screen, right?
Of course I will.
Because the mass and ordinary people of the country, they know how their destiny, their honor, their future, you know,
Yeah.
is kidnapped by a bunch of gangsters, right? Called themselves the establishment, right? I flushed out Neil Hamilton and Jonathan Atkin. I put him in prison. Jonathan Atkin was supposed to be your fucking prime minister one day. And Neil Hamilton, a fucking right, a prostitute, right? And I took the court in Scotland again. They put two fingers up for me. Because again in Scotland, there is a mafia Masonic club, and Prince Philip is the chairman.
I was starting to realise why the establishment fear this anarchist billionaire. A few days later, I went to meet him again at the heart of his empire, Harrods. He stood behind the protective wall of his publicity machine. Like an emperor in his own country, he inspected his troops, the Herodian Guard. Except instead of a military march past, this has clowns and jugglers, and instead of guns, lollipops are handed out.
Nice to meet you.
Perhaps it's not surprising that the man who owns the store is popular with his customers. And he might well see it as a duty to form an alternative monarchy, especially considering the performance of the real royals.
It's give and take with the royal family, but the Windsors are all take. Mohammed had the Duke of Edinburgh here to lunch. The Queen was wonderful. I mean, Mohammed used to say outrageous things. The Queen liked his company and enjoyed and laughed about it. But Mohammed always felt there was an undercurrent of racism.
Of course, he's Arab.
Well, certainly from the Duke of Edinburgh.
Unlike the British royals, the King of Harrods likes meeting his subjects.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for doing this.
Welcome. How are you? What's your name?
Sydney.
Oh, aren't you lovely? You gonna come and work for me? I give you a... Why?
Work in Tesco's.
Well, Tesco. You're a dummy like your daddy, aren't you?
Look, I know I may appear as though I've got a teenage crush, but there's something intoxicating about standing next to an anarchist, especially an anarchist billionaire, and you can count those on the fingers of a mitten.
You want one? Hello. How are you today? She's your girlfriend?
Yes, she's mine.
Yours? Really? You have babies?
No babies.
Why? Something wrong with him?
No.
Give me your hand. You have a girlfriend? Yes. I'm going to give you something nice, okay? Give you something for him tonight. Give me your hands. I'll give him something for tonight. Yeah, I'll give you something for tonight. It's very special Harrods Viagra.
Oh.
Two Viagra for her.
Thank you.
Oh, you naughty! You're naughty! Go away!
I left Mohammed to do some shopping. Harrods is always thought of as the establishment store, so it's odd that much of the establishment wants nothing to do with its owner nowadays. They won't even give him a British passport. But does he really want one anyway? He certainly doesn't seem to be trying very hard to appease those people who could give him one.
Best of all, you said that Tony Blair and his cabinet were a bunch of cock-sucking cheats. Yeah. So, do you think that's affected your chances of getting a British passport, saying all those things?
No. They make a big fuss about that. As you know, I have Egyptian nationality, is the old civilization, 7,000 years of civilization. You'd be proud to be Egyptian.
While wandering around the store that claims to sell everything, I had an idea for a product that Harrods currently doesn't sell. Channel 4 are paying me peanuts, so I need to make a little bit of bunts on the side, and I knew just the man to help me design it.
I think if I sit on the bed with you, you'll get a bad reputation.
No, don't worry, darling. My reputation's ruined anyway. The project that I want to involve you in, I'll be quite clear with you. I do want to make a political statement.
Oh, okay.
And the brief is to demystify the clothing in question.
Okay.
I was concerned that my fashion idea might upset Mohammed again, so I didn't want to reveal what it was to the camera until later, even though I'd already found the perfect display area. Well, I didn't want to risk getting fired by Fayed a second time. However, as I talked to his architect and interior designer, Bill Mitchell, I realised that Mohamed often sacks people, but they don't usually stay sacked for long.
Well, it's a risky business. I mean, it's like getting out on a tightrope.
I mean, apparently you've been sacked 30 times and...
Well, I've been sacked quite often.
Have you?
Then he tells me to off, you know.
Right.
And so I go, and then I get a telephone call saying, "Where are you?" And I say, "I'm not too sure at the moment." They said, "Well, get your ass back here." That's it. So we get on.
What keeps you with them?
It's doing things that would be entertaining for people. And this is the one place that you can actually do it in the retail business. How are you going to spend 20 million quid on an Egyptian escalator? Who's going to do that?
You see here?
Yeah.
That's my face.
Is it?
Yeah, they have my face forever.
You like that, don't you?
And then on the top,
the zoo.
The zoo.
He wants it on the roof. It's four.
So we go and have a look at it. No, I mean, the idea, I've heard it rumoured that he wants to be buried here. Is that right?
Well,
just for the viewers at home, I should explain, this is the roof of Harrods.
Yes, this is the roof, just outside that window there.
Okay. Can I move?
Yeah, let's try to move it. I mean, it's a really important part of it, this, you know. This is sort of the Sphinx, look, you've well recognised at Giza, yes?
It's on the roof at Harrods?
Sphinx on the roof. It's quite big, too. Man. And then it will light up at night.
Well, of course you can't have people not seeing it, it's ridiculous.
Of course. And then at the back you've got the temple at Dendera.
So he's given up with the idea of being buried here?
Well, that may probably come about when you think about it. I mean, today we're doing the zoo. In a year's time, when he feels a bit off, you know, he could think, well, I might be buried in that one. That's how it is. And I wouldn't argue with it. I mean, we can turn that into a pyramid, can't we? So, but this is where the alligators are at the bottom.
Of course, the alligators.
The alligators up the escalators, you know.
Course, yeah.
That's it.
And what else do kings get up to? They bring their imperial power to new lands in need of civilization.
That would be London. That's London in Las Vegas.
Oh my God.
See? Not bad, is it? There's Marble Arch, there's Nelson's Column, there's the London buses.
Do you think he's been badly treated?
Oh, indeed. It's mainly lack of understanding, and it's the good side of him and all the things he does are never brought out.
I tried to find out why the establishment detest him.
They hated the idea of a wog bidding for the top people's shop. Right. And it's an unpleasant word, but it's true. I mean, that's exactly what the reaction was.
The establishment constantly referred to him as the phony pharaoh, and seemed to regard Egyptians as second-class citizens. I wouldn't dream of calling this biography of Fayed racist, but at times it does seem a trifle xenophobic. There was a time when the establishment most definitely needed him.
In about 84, the Sultan of Brunei had about £12 billion invested in this country. The dollar was almost at the same level as the pound. That if the Sultan had withdrawn his cash, for the first time ever...
Would have gone underneath the dollar.
Gone underneath the dollar. Charles Powell approached Mohammed on behalf of Margaret Thatcher and asked Mohammed to intervene with his friend, the Sultan of Brunei. He was invited by Thatcher to go to number 10 Downing Street with the Sultan of Brunei, and they went and had tea with Thatcher. The Sultan of Brunei agreed to not withdraw his money.
So when did it all go wrong? In 1985, when he bought those House of Fraser shares from Tiny Rowland. Tiny needed someone to hold on to those shares for a while because he was under investigation. And when he wanted to buy them back again, Mohammed said no. The furious Rowland used his newspaper, The Observer, to investigate the Fayed brothers, claiming that they had used the Sultan of Brunei's money to buy Harrods, a claim, incidentally, that has never been proved.
How can fraudsters and liars be allowed to seize and then retain control of an important British institution which employs thousands of people and is the holder of royal warrants?
Nice words coming from the spokesman for a German Nazi sympathiser, whose company was once described by Ted Heath as the unpleasant and unacceptable face of capitalism. Roland even put pressure on Margaret Thatcher to launch a DTI investigation into the House of Fraser takeover bid.
Tiny Roland started to write wrote a story about Mark Thatcher.
From what I remember, it was about arms dealing, wasn't it? Or connections with arms dealing?
Well, it was about connections with the Sultan of Brunei and what he was doing. And there are lots of hints in the piece, you know, and that caused huge furore inside the Thatcher inner circle. If all this stuff came, all the stuff came out about Thatcher, and of course Tiny owned the Observer, you know, it would absolutely floor her during the election. Suddenly, inspectors were appointed. I'm perfectly clear in my own mind that there was a deal done, which was that if they put the inspectors into Mohammed, then Tiny would shut up about Mark Thatcher, which is what he did.
Shukran. Good afternoon.
Mohammed continued his royal progress round the store. Why should he care if the Windsors no longer shop here? He has more money than them anyway.
No, I don't care. I just put my fingers up to the bastards, right? This Egyptian soldiers, you see wearing the kilt. And the kilt originally is Egyptian.
Is it? Yeah, I didn't know
and
that.
the Scottish, yeah.
Really?
Because originally, Egyptian discovered Scotland.
Later came the real breakthrough. Mohammed invited us to come to his Scottish estate, leaving behind his publicity machine, the very, very nervous Herodian Guard.
Health and safety.
And on his private jet, too, into which TV cameras had never been allowed before. Suddenly, I felt like Alan Wicker when he met the Sultan of Brunei, and ITV had to send a team of their proctologically trained frogmen to extract their presenter from the Sultan's rectum. Still, I'm starting to understand the attraction of hanging around the rich and famous. And there are two types of people that make me fall instantly in love: stunningly beautiful women and stunningly rich men.
Wow, you can smoke here as well. Fantastic. I love Harrods. Love Harrods. And we're going to Scotland. Yes. Well, you will hear Prince Philip is a bastard. Many times. Right, cut.
I've never been wild about docs stacked with stats, but this is the point in the doc where it's customary to give some facts and figures, and I'll break my own rule and do so here, because they really are extraordinary. Al-Fayed's personal fortune is undisclosed, but Agence France Presse estimates his personal worth at over £1 billion. Harrods has a yearly revenue of around £500 million. In the last 2 years, he has received £47 million in dividends from Harrods alone, and it's all underpinned by his ownership of some of the most exclusive real estate in the world.
God, who are all these people?
The cost of flying to Scotland in a G4 jet is £4,500 per hour. This trip is probably costing Al-Fayed around £15,000. Absolute peanuts. We wanted to get a shot of our aeroplane taking off, but Channel 4 budgets aren't big enough to extend to a second crew, and my arms aren't long enough to reach out of the window and point a camera back at myself. So this, unfortunately, is the best we could do.
Can I ask you a favour?
Yeah.
If you'll agree, I'd like you to do one bit of acting when we get up there, right?
Yeah.
And what I'd like you to do, right, is I'll film you, okay, with me sitting down, and you stand up and you say, get out of it.
As you can see, the fight never really happened. It was just a ruse to keep your attention. And it did.
Shout, yeah.
Do this thing. I spit on your balls.
Yeah.
No. Because if it hadn't worked, you'd have switched over by now. And what's more, if you had switched over, who cares? Ratings mean nothing to me. I hang around with billionaires. I've been in Dickens. I've been in Shakespeare. I'm an actor. So fuck you.
So we come to you and you're going, get out of here. So of course everyone thinks, my God, why has he done that? And then when we come back, it's just me and you sat here, and with me telling you, will you do that? And then I say on the voiceover, we only did that so that you come back and watch the programme.
Ah, the magic of television. We were heading toward a Scottish castle in a toy shop model of a Gulfstream jet. Inside it looks cosy, doesn't it?
It's not that bad at all, is it?
But half this plane is populated by security men, and with good reason. Because if you subscribe to Mohammed's theories about establishment killings, then it's logical that he's next. And if he's next to the moment, then so am I.
Don't fart, huh?
Mohammed's coffee arrives in its own container, just in case of poisoning.
Basically, in the Middle East, you lived with the colonial power. And Egypt was a colony for 80, 90 years. I grew up during the British rule, and I know the races, you know, the way they create and the way they create the class system, right? But this is again the British politician who caused all this problem. Why I came to England, right? The biggest, the most ultimate mistake which will be in the history is Tony Blair taking this serious decision to join America in the war. And you see what's happening now. It will be, but they don't understand the culture, they don't understand, you know, but this is the problem when you have a bloody stupid prime minister, right? Who is Tony Blair? From where he comes? Can you tell me what achievement in life, what life experience he have to lead a great country, great people? What the bloody measure, being an idiot school leaver, you know, to be a prime minister, from one idiot to another. The suffering and the devastation and the poverty worldwide is you just scream, your hair goes up everywhere. But in your own country, the suffering everywhere. You go in the inner city, the bloody government, right, don't give any care. They sit in there, 10 Downing Street. You think he's Henry VIII?
Al-Fayed, being his own king, prime minister and chancellor, has his own ways of spending some of his fortune. Princess Diana's old school has been turned into a specialised college for over 100 children, whose backgrounds make mainstream schooling impossible. Mohammed is its founding patron.
What's your name? Give me your name. Yeah. What's his name?
Ryan.
Ryan.
Ryan doesn't talk at school,
Yeah.
do you? But he will do
okay.
one day.
Yeah.
One day he will.
Yeah, that's
Just
good.
say thank you.
So happy to see so many people enjoying their care and their love.
It's just one of many examples of his charitable work, which he keeps so private that almost nobody knows about it, except for me, you, and several million Channel 4 viewers. I found myself unavoidably, physically attracted to King Mo's generosity.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
You've got very sexy eyes, haven't you?
Really?
Very.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We appear to be experiencing large levels of romantic turbulence. Sick bags are available.
So, yeah, and so look, this thing about the Egyptians being Scottish, I love it. Is it true?
Mahiris Reid is a professor from Edinburgh University, a leading professor, historian, right? Wrote these facts. And we've been taught that in my primary school in Egypt, in Alexandria.
Really?
Yeah, I promise you. And this is why it's taken my mind. And the kilt originally is Egyptian, and they don't wear nothing underneath. And the Scottish...
Yeah, but it's a lot hotter out there, that's cool.
No, but this is one of them, you know, again, you're not allowed to wear anything under the kilt. You're not Scots if you put underpants under the kilt.
No, fair enough.
Yeah. And because why? Because
your
basically...
balls must hang.
Yeah, and make you very fertile, you know. If you
I was nervous, but I noticed that the further he got from London, the more relaxed he became.
It says here, the headline is, I want to clone 2,000 Al-Fayeds. Tycoon Mohamed Al-Fayed wants to clone 2,000 copies of himself and strike terror into the heart of the British establishment.
A few hundred, maybe.
Really? And what did you have to do? Did you have to give him a blood sample or something like that?
No. We have natural, very, very, very old Egyptian sperm. Pharaonic sperm.
How much of it?
Quarter a liter, maybe.
No, don't be so ridiculous.
There's no doubt that Mohammed is well liked up here, as only a very nice man with many billions of pounds can be. All right, I'm going back. There's no doubt that Mohammed is well liked up here, as only a very nice man with many billions of pounds can be. Yet the Windsors have billions too, but they're not at all well liked. And unlike them, he's investing in the place he lives in. You might think this is an oil rig, but he's planning to turn it into an exclusive 6-star luxury hotel, accessible only by helicopter. Before I left London, I caught up with the factor of Al-Fayed's Scottish estate, under the shadow of the palace of this Scottish laird's mortal enemy.
Christmas time, he opened the store last year. 10,000 people came out of the hills. I don't reckon David Beckham would get that.
Open what store?
Well, he has this restaurant and shop by this waterfall at the Falls of Shin. He bought it in June 2002. The turnover has now gone up 600% in 2 years. 250,000 people make their way up this little track to see salmon jump and to have cups of tea and go to the loo and whatever. It's a facility that's provided. And he gave it the Harrods treatment. He put fireworks and came and switched the lights on. 10,000 people came. It was gridlock. The other thing is, I mean, we had GM crops being tested on the Black Isle next to Inverness. Quietly, he gave them £60,000 to fight that, because he's a great one for the purity. He didn't say, I am Mr. Al-Fayed, tell her. He did it. There was a dump coming up near Invergordon. Again, he paid the legal cost quietly.
He's constantly pumping money back into the local community, as he did with this castle, which he bought in 1972 as a £60,000 ruin. And even his greatest critics couldn't deny that it's been painstakingly restored with no expense spared. There's been an investment of £20 million in the estate, and it's expanded from 25 acres to a staggering 65,000 acres. The castle alone has had £8.9 million spent on its development. So, having spent all these millions of pounds on refurbishment, which wing does he choose to live in? This tent. As with every property he owns, he has a tent outside where he often chooses to live, perhaps to remind himself of his humble origins. This is the first time he's ever allowed cameras inside.
You see where I live?
You have a tent everywhere that you...
Everywhere.
Do you really?
In Oxford, my country house also. You're going to stay here tonight? You're going to stay in one of those guest houses, right? And if you have a girlfriend, you have a boyfriend, anything you want.
You're obsessed
with
it, aren't you?
You have two boyfriends,
What is it with you camels and boyfriends? Is this a particular tartan?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's my tartan.
Is it?
My own tartan, yeah.
Al-Fayed tartan?
Al-Fayed tartan, yeah. And I have no underpants. Unfortunately, like to put my kill today, but it's freezing cold.
I know, it's cold, isn't it?
And I don't want my tools to be frozen, you know.
Behave yourself.
Yeah.
So we go in?
You want to go in?
Yes.
Yeah, come in. Come into my little humble palace.
Scotland is traditionally the place where exiles plot revenge, and that's what Mohamed did in the dying years of the major government, when he played a large part in its downfall. Again, it goes back to his feud with Tiny Rowland. Rowland had contacts with a number of senior Tories who were spokesmen for his cause, so Mohamed thought he'd best get a few himself. The political lobbyist Ian Greer introduced him to the highly charismatic Tim Smith and the oh-so-suave Neil Hamilton, who both took ample lobbying fees to do sweet fuck all. Mohamed let his irritation be known.
The House now knows that my honourable friend, the member for Beaconsfield, has resigned from the government. My honourable friend, the member for Tatton, has vigorously rejected, both orally and in writing, the allegations of impropriety made against him and is taking legal action.
For me, he's nothing. He's not a human. He's not a person have any dignity or any honor. Someone he knows he's already committed really major crime against the trust of the people who voted for him and put him as a member, the representative House of Commons.
So, by 1997, Mohamed had his revenge on the establishment. He'd seen the major government fall.
Because without my courage, without my commitment to unmask the corrupt Conservative Party, they would never have these 200 seats. Is this happened in the history of the Labour Party? They have 200 seats. Why? Because I got the courage. I got the commitment to this country for the future generation.
And he still has more career-finishing evidence to produce about other politicians, particularly Michael Beep.
I'd like to leave Michael Howard maybe later, because I'd like to see what he's going to do. let him get very excited.
Beep.
Being the Prime Minister, right?
And then you'll just dump it on him.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
I bet that if Mr. Bleep is watching this, he must be shitting himself.
I don't have any respect for all the House of Commons. I don't want to go there. I don't want to see all those wankers.
And in 1997, his favoured son became the consort of Princess Diana. His revenge seemed complete.
Diana herself went aboard another of Mr. Al-Fayed's craft this afternoon, a luxury...
For the first time in her life, she seemed to have found true happiness, but with a man with a very different background and faith to other royals. What must the Windsors have thought?
They will not accept, and it's all at the core of racism, right? It happened, that's, you know. Dodi knows Diana for a long, long time. I know her when she was a child. Her father was a great friend of mine.
It's okay, don't worry.
Right? And the relation is there, you know. I was welcomed. I was sponsoring the Royal Horse Show for the last 15 years before the tragedy at a cost of £20 million. I sit next to the Queen. Prince Philip come her also have lunch, you know. Prince Charles, they let her come to spend the holiday with the princes, you know. And everything was okay. Only when they saw that my son, you know, going out with Diana and Diana fall in love with him, this is just natural, you know.
Like horse breeding, royal lineage is all about bloodlines. They'd regarded Diana as nothing more than a brood mare crossed with a clothes horse, but she turned out to be a kicker, getting her oats by being covered by an Arab stallion. And Mohammed thinks that was sufficient motive for the royals to decide it was time to send them all to the knacker's yard.
They have murdered my son and Princess Diana. And I put my finger straight to the gangster who ruling the country behind the scene, who is the head of the royal household, Prince Philip. Right?
You think that you think that he stopped you?
He is the person who have initiated and also in participation with Prince Charles.
While every theory is explored, Al-Fayed wears the black tie of mourning each day until what he considers to be the truth is revealed.
Is this normal? You think this is... How can he wake up in the morning with a woman, she looks like a crocodile?
This is Camilla Parker Bowles.
Charles will never do it without the blessing and the order of his father, because... And what she told me during her holiday, the 2 weeks she spent with me with her kids, right? It's just devastating.
What did she tell you, Mom?
The threats, the suffering, the humiliation she has, especially from Prince Philip, and continuous threats. And she knows. And she told me personally, if anything happened to me, be sure the finger is the person who have done it is Prince Philip.
She said that to you?
Definitely, definitely. Why I'm so overwhelmed, you know, why I'm so convinced, right? How can this happen in the 20th century?
And the quest for answers is not his alone. It's not just Al-Fayed who says this. This is the voice of Diana, Princess of Wales, which was recorded before she died and has never been heard before.
I don't have time, an awful lot of time for hobbies, but keeping alive and out of trouble's one of them, and coping with the challenges that life puts forward for me.
Which, as you'll hear in the final part, provides a revealing insight into Mohammed's theories about Diana and Dodi's untimely death. These never-before-broadcast extracts are from a tape of Princess Diana talking months before her death. At the time, what seemed like an offhand comment now has more sinister overtones.
If you're strong in my environment, you're a problem. But I still got a sense of humour, which is amazing, really. By rights, I shouldn't have any. I think every strong woman in history has had to go down a similar path. If you're a strong woman in my environment, you're a problem. So I'm a hell of a problem. I don't have time, an awful lot of time for hobbies, but keeping alive and out of trouble's one of them. Keeping alive.
Unfortunately, she failed.
Good evening. Few, if any, events will touch the lives of so many of us as the death in the early hours of this morning of Diana, Princess of Wales.
I know exactly where I was, and I'm sure everyone else knows exactly where they were. Where were you when you heard about Dodi and Di's death?
I was in my bed, sleeping at 12 o'clock in the morning, just head of security in the hotel. I was in London, you know. And he say, it was a terrible accident. Dodi passed away, and the prince is in a very, very critical situation. I say, how this happened? I say, I don't know. And this just, I got the news, and the police there, everything is in disaster way, you know. I'm just informing you. I just get myself up. I waked up my helicopter pilots, came straight away to the house. I arrived in Paris at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And things straight away come back to me, you know. That's all what she told me.
Immediately?
Immediately.
Immediately?
Immediately I know that this is not no, because she knows and she's been threatened that something like that will happen to her in a car.
Listening to Mohamed talk about the death of Diana and his son, I realised how much the loss had affected him, why he still keeps Dodi's apartments in London and Paris empty, and why he regards them as shrines. Earlier, he'd allowed us to visit them.
Now, I'm not allowed to, I can go in there, but no, I'm not allowed to talk or anything.
That's what
Just quiet?
Yeah.
Okay, but nobody else has been in here?
No.
Has this just been left exactly as it was?
No wonder he was outraged.
How can they eliminate two beautiful, innocent people, their life just like that? They talk God, they think they are gods, they think they are different type of people. And they will not accept, you know, that she can see happiness. They don't accept that at the last, at the whole suffering of 20 years of her life, you know, she can see the light and she can see happiness with someone she loved, you know.
The palace has understandably denied all of these allegations. Listening to him, I realised that his phenomenal memory is a double-edged sword, and that what keeps him so sharp tortures him too. Because although for most of us time is a healer, for him, the pain remains as sharp as ever.
He's got a streak about him. He's developed a very strong sense of personal aggrievement.
He's not the sort of person who's going to sit there and take that sort of indignity and attack. And why should he? He's done nothing wrong in this country. He's never been prosecuted for anything. He's paid huge sums of taxes. He's employed a lot of people.
They cancelled your...
My forward tax agreement, they call it. Forward tax agreement. As myself, as a foreign investor, right, okay? I pay tax on all the business I have here in the United Kingdom, but I'm not taxed for other business I have overseas, right? But why they do single me out of thousands? Only me. They cancel my agreement, right?
So we go in.
Okay, we go.
God, what a beautiful evening. Look at that.
Nice and fresh.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Even now, there was still much about Mohamed that I didn't really understand. What about his family life?
I noticed you very rarely talk about your family. Your children, you know, your wives.
It's private.
No, okay.
Yeah.
No, I respect that.
Yeah,
no,
it's important to keep them They don't want to be in the limelight.
No, I know. In fact, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
If you know, your brother, I mean, I don't know your brother.
Yeah.
But he got his passport.
Yeah, he's married an English girl.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. But he's not like you, is he? I mean, I'm not being insulting or anything, but you like...
But I'm the head of the family.
But you like being public, don't you? You like it.
No, but it's forced on you, right?
Well, yeah, but there are ways of dealing with it. You're a showman. You like being a showman, I think.
But it's just natural. You can't. You can't be different. You want me to dance, I dance. You want me to sing, I sing. Whatever you want.
It comes the shopkeeper, Mohamed, him the live case winner, Al-Fayed, him got the nice face, Al-Fayed.
Here in his Scottish castle, like Bonnie Prince Charlie in his lair, Mohammed fulminates against the establishment. But he doesn't want to replace them or overthrow them. He just wants to expose them.
And if the royal family still continue with all the privilege and all the power they have, Great Britain would be great Bangladesh. And this is the intention of the establishment, to just put zombies, ignorant people. People have they can run like a mob, like mobs, you know. And this is what is happening. And you're having all the intelligence everywhere, MI6 everywhere, MI5 everywhere, all permanent secretaries. Most of them work for MI6 and MI5. And those are the people ruling. Politicians are just zombies.
Of course, many people label such talk a conspiracy theory. And the thing we're all supposed to believe about conspiracy theories is that they have no basis in reality, and those who espouse them are fantasists. And of course they often are. Although there could be other less sinister explanations for Diana and Dodi's deaths, the more time I've spent with Mohammed, the saner I think he is. So either I'm getting madder, or there's some sense in what he says.
Mohammed, if Prince Philip walked in here now and sat down here, what would you say to him?
I will tell him he is the biggest gangster, crooked person in the history of a great nation. He's been imposed, brought in like a son of a bitch, grow up with no parents, grow up with the Nazi, and he's a Nazi at the core. He's sick, he's diseased, he's mentally gone, you know, with nothing, no honesty, nothing, and I can just believe that he's still there, and the royal family is still there.
If his constant attacks on the establishment are bitter, it's because deep down he still wants to belong to Britain, the colonial power when he was growing up in Egypt. Even though the establishment here has treated him appallingly, whereas in France he's been decorated 4 times, and in Egypt he's revered as a national hero. It may not be a fashionable line to take, but I think that Mohamed Al-Fayed is playing the same game as the rest of the country. I, for one, believe it's time we allowed him onto our team.
Remember when I was in Harrods, you said you can buy anything here. Somebody wanted to buy an alligator once and they got one 3 days later. I don't know if that's...
You want alligators?
No, I don't. There's one thing that you do not sell, okay? Now, I've noticed with Muslim women, you know the burqa?
Yeah.
I came up with this idea. I've had these designed by a designer, right? For Harrods to be the first place in the world to sell designer burqas. And this is the first one.
Can you try it for me, please?
Here we have, I think, probably the top of the range, the Harrods green.
I start wearing from next week when I come.
If you don't want a Harrods special one, you can always stitch on Nike, Adidas, Puma.
You will
Try
look
it
beautiful.
on.
You will look beautiful in it.
Can you imagine
This is
that?
a tartan, yeah?
A tartan burqa.
Yeah. Just make your collection and I'll give you a concession. Then you come modeling them and walk in the store and people will buy it from you. You want a cup of tea? There is a dinner for you there in the accommodation, huh? Fine? And tonight you will be served stag testicle.
The Scottish Muslim. Don't you think? Seriously, no, listen, stop it. Stop it. Don't you think, though? Get off.
Associated Great Diffusion.